Hello, Vineyard. Happy Wednesday. We are in the month of October, deep into that month of October, which means it is time to start decorating for Christmas and fully lean into that season that is upon us. We've got a lot coming up that's going to celebrate the time of year, but also celebrate our reality that we, the Vineyard, are a family of the children of God and celebrate the reality that God is with us. Now, one of the ways we get to celebrate all of this is by doing what we talk about every Sunday morning as we get started with worship, the reality of the economy of God being that we get to give. All of that comes out of Matthew chapter 10, was when Jesus is prepping to send out his disciples to do some of the stuff that he trained them to do. He gave them these instructions as they were sent out. He said, heal the sick, raise the dead, cure those with leprosy, cast out demons, give as freely as you've received. Now, this is how the reality of God's kingdom functions. And it brings us to our devotional for the week before we get into some announcements. Now, as Harlan and I have been preaching through the book of Ephesians, and especially if you heard his sermon from this past Sunday, we see that Paul is making the emphatic point that to know Jesus creates a momentum that changes everything for us. This free gift of relationship with him works in the same way as every other blessing poured out from the throne of heaven, and it leads us to the reality that we get to give. Now, one issue we face in our culture is the false religion that corrupts the economy of God. Corrupts it from we get to give to we get to get and get and get and get some more. Now, this is often tied into making relationship with God about emotion or feeling, and that's also tied to circumstances, the circumstances that we're feeling at the time. It creates a relational hurdle because when things are going well, it feels like we're in the blessing of God, that Dad is happy with us, but then when things aren't going so great, we wonder who did something wrong that pissed off the Father, and also what we might have done to breach a barrier, and it's tied to emotion rather than to the reality that we know of God's love. One way that Henry Nouwen put it is this: just as God cannot be caught or comprehended in any specific idea, concept, opinion, or conviction, he cannot be defined by any specific feeling or emotion either. God cannot be identified with a good, affectionate feeling toward our neighbor, or with a sweet emotion of the heart, or with ecstasies, movements of the body, or handling of snakes. God is not just our good inclinations, our fervor, our generosity, or our love. All of these experiences of the heart may remind us of God's presence, but their absence does not prove God's presence. God is not only greater than our mind, he is also greater than our heart. And just as we have to avoid the temptation of adapting God to our small concepts, we also have to avoid adapting him to our small feelings. Now, one way we can escape this is to understand the economy of God and why that it works. It works because we get to give. Give freely as you have received. We know that the activity of God is manifest through the work of the church, that with Jesus as the head, we are the body of the Messiah, and through the work of that body, God interacts with creation. So, we get to give. This month, we began our Thanksgiving outreach, and the goal of this is to bless families with the love of God because we give as freely as we receive. So pray about this. Ask the Father who in your sphere of influence would be blessed by having the groceries for a Thanksgiving meal given to them. If a name comes to mind or someone that you interact with makes you think of this outreach, submit a nomination form online and we'll get to work from there. In a few weeks, we'll have all the families that are looking to be blessed, all the families that are nominated, they'll be ready to be picked up so we can shop and deliver some turkeys and groceries in the name of the love of the Father. So pray about and submit a nomination, and then get a group of your Vineyard siblings together and ready to pick one of the nominated families up to bless, and then we can shop and start delivering some of God's love. October is the first of an awesome month of a season of generosity. And this is one that pushes back against the culture by saying we get to give. So, Vineyard, I'm praying for you. Please pray for me, and I will see you on Sunday.